this is Krista here with you again today. And today I want to continue with my large journal slash speech on narcissism recovery, dysfunctional families, and addiction. I have kind of been putting them both together lately, not intentionally, but as I just speak from the top of my head and go, as it's just, as I gather information, I share it and can make more sense of it myself. And find that here lately, I can even, if I'm troubled and if I have to go back into, like, per se, my family again, or a troubling situation again, and I might get knocked back, as does happen with narcissistic abusive relationships or toxic people, hanging around toxic people, or situations where there's drugs again, possible relapse or whatever. It's always helpful for me to come back to these tapes and listen to it again, and to inspire, give me a little bit more self-confidence, and so forth. So right now my allergies are pretty bad, and I'm just tired. Last weekend was really hard, because I was put once again in a situation where there were drugs, and some of the harder drugs, and I was again with a person that is not so, let's just say, more on the verge of toxic, as we codependents can sometimes hang on to these relationships, thinking that we can handle it just for a short while, or just one more fun round of whoever or whatever it is comes along again. Maybe it's been years since you've been sober, but you maybe relapsed maybe a few times in that few years, and you think just once in a while is okay. But as the case may be, and I will try to describe it like this, it's sort of like a knockback situation where, especially if you do come from more dysfunctional homes, where even if it might be more covert, in that family, you were pushed very hard. The pressure was very high to succeed. And maybe some generational work that if they've always been doctors, if they've always had the pizzeria business, or if they just had put these high expectations on you that were like way even past ridiculous. Say maybe if your dad was a psychopath or whatever, and things were never good enough, and you could never attain and meet their levels, no matter how hard you danced or jumped, or whatever fire hoop you had to go through, in order to please these individuals on a constant basis. Whether it was more socially, like in your schools or colleges or whatever, to, well, you have that studying to do, but you also, it is expected of you to drink as much beer as we can, or take that one pill of ecstasy, like when it becomes like a weekend thing, and where everybody's doing it, and you find yourself going along with whatever it is because you have been pounded all your life to not feel good enough. If these narcissistic types have walked all over you all your life and basically told you in a way that you will never amount to much and you will never be as important as them, and people have constantly beat you down, overworking you, just basically telling you to your face or in subtle, covert, sneaky ways that you are not good enough and you will never be as good as them. And these were your role models growing up. I mean, these people were essentially the people that were supposed to make you feel safe and comforted and loved and secure. And then you grow up with these deeper levels of insecurity, even self-loathing, that you picked up and learned and were treated by these guiding individuals. Okay, and I'm not saying that to hate on them like 100%, but I am saying to keep your eyes open and aware, because the same crap will play throughout your lives over and over again. Where you are built up, deflated, rejected, abandoned, avoided, criticized, whatever it was, of course, is going to make an individual feel extreme measures of pain and hate. Once again, and as children especially, to blame and hate ourselves while being blamed that it is our fault, and we all these internal signals in us and these surging amounts of pain go through us, and we dealt with it however we could as children. Okay, maybe you had special gifts, like you learned to play the piano. You had this thing where whenever things went bad, you walked to that river and you collected shells. You did excel in that math program, or had those special friends that you hung out with that you could relate to. Whatever it was that you used to keep going. Any kind of coping method that you used to keep going, that would keep you going. And then you grow up and you think that, well, now I have all this freedom to do whatever I want, and people are going to finally treat me with respect now that I am this or that, or I'm a grown-up. And then you find yourself almost repeating your past, even though you might not see it at first. But as it happens over and over again, you start asking questions to yourself. Like, why am I still so unhappy? Why don't I have any satisfaction? Why am I still getting beat down by this person or this job that I got hired at, where the boss just never gives me a raise and treats me like shit? When you're not making enough money, we're looking at not just poor mindsets here, but ways that we were raised that maybe we need to improve more cognitive structure inside of ourselves and look at my point right now in my life really is where I'm at. Where I'm at in these situations with these individuals and what kinds of individuals they are, that are more toxic, that still keep me in this beat down point. Like last weekend, when, and I think it's a little bit harder because it's still getting away from like old trolls perhaps might be following you when you try to do better in the world. People that don't really want you to get ahead, they want you to stay, or society to stay the same. Daisy says hi. To stay the same. Mwah. Just getting a little hug and love today, because we definitely need more self-love and not so much self-loathing, or for the world either. Take breaks of love for sure. So society all grooming us to only be so much. And well, if you're going to change and improve yourself or improve your job or whatever it is, that's not the same old person that we used to know. Where's that old girl we used to know that would join in the fun with us or whatever that may be? Or, stay in that old stuck relationship with old Joe Schmo or Sally, where you're not happy. I mean, and you are expected to play these roles where we still stay more victim mentality, and we're just surviving. I mean, just getting through life day to day, going to the job, but there's not really any real value, true meaning or value behind of it for us to gain any real satisfaction. So then we set off coping still as we're grown up, and coping and maybe with eating the wrong things, not getting out and doing what you really love in life, doing the drugs and alcohol, keeping in the dating world of the same toxic type of individuals, where that cycle of dysfunction keeps happening over and over again, like the idealization, the more of the shame, blame, and guilting on another person, or judgment, which can really be harsh and cruel and cause extreme and keep causing extreme levels of pain throughout our lives. And then when we isolate, we become isolated or agoraphobic and not feel good enough to do the things. And if we keep being knocked down socially, or if we can't begin to notice these different types of people and who toxic people are, or situations, how these drugs or this food really destroys our energy levels, and the addictions can get so bad as you continue your use, to where you're having problems at work. Your self-esteem levels have dropped so intensely, and you might not even notice why all of a sudden you don't want to do that job anymore, and you just quit one day, and then you're left feeling that intense, like, not safe or secure anymore, wondering where to go next, and blaming the world for it, or justifying why you hate everything, why you feel like shit all the time, or whose fault it is. Really just start looking at yourself instead, and taking control back as in continuing with your recovery program and taking that intense pain and old traumas and releasing them in healthy ways, like quantum healing meditations I love by Melanie Tanya Evans. I use those every day, every morning. I even do a Reiki session sometimes because I have some health issues. If you are learning to take care of yourself and you're struggling, and you get thrown into these situations, you have to get stronger at and keep practicing making decisions that are good, or the ones that you need to separate yourself from, or separate yourself more from as time goes on, as be it a toxic family, that whenever you enter that home, that they start with the guilt, shame, blame, judgment trips on you. And to notice and to say stop and put your boundaries up and either back off of it or help that person understand what they're doing if they could see it at all. But don't try to pound it into a person or try to, because it's still you trying to keep that control. But we have to begin to let that control go of just our need for that control over. That is a big one that will smack you in the face every time. But when we do start becoming aware of it, when we're learning a lesson of control in our lives at any given time, when we can really stop, take some deep breaths, do something presently in the moment, like just stop and be in the present and become aware of your surroundings and yourself, and like become matrix. That's what's great about meditation or any kind of mindfulness stance, be it when you stop and kiss your dog, you stop and tinker with any kind of hobby or whatever that creates more stillness and control, and slow down enough to become self-aware enough to really begin to see when you are learning a lesson and how to change it as the patterns repeat itself, whether it's you learning another lesson through someone at that given time, or whether it's to choose to stop falling in that pit and that hole with that toxic person or situation, or like using again. When you can, maybe you might fall into that pit again, and because all of a sudden whatever that drug is there, you can't resist it and you find yourself relapsing. Not to, instead of go back into shame and hide from the world and feel horrible about yourself, but to stand up to that judgment and either come away, learn how to spend time with yourself, and doing the things that you like to do. And even though they can be really scary because you've been attached to people all your life and dependent on other people and things, or you can begin to break that and, okay, well, so-and-so, now that I know that I went over to so-and-so's and they're still doing that, and even though I did it again, I might have relapsed again or whatever, to, once you come away from there and your ass is kicked again, instead of feeling like a failure and that you can never do it, and giving up that hope and your self-esteem, which you need to keep, in order to sustain that hope, to help in your recovery, and to let go of the judgments of others toward you, and however you need to break that, for forgiveness of yourself and acceptance of the world. You have to choose, well, I'm never going to go there again, to Sally or Joe's house, because now that I know that they are still getting that, and I can't be anywhere near that because I know how weak that I am, just to separate yourself again and find new places to go, new friends to join, new things to do. And you don't have to go there. You don't. You start making better choices that way. Until you can become stronger at saying no. But whatever you need to do to limit yourself away from whatever that your weakness is. And even if it's a relapse towards relationships, instead to whack yourself on the head and be like, oh, I was so dumb, to see it as a learning experience and go from there. And it's very holistic and rewarding to be able to forgive yourself like this and accept, and it kind of brings you back to feeling better about yourself when you can see that these are learning experiences instead of judging yourself harshly. And to even, as hard as it is in how addictive toxic relationships are, that you can start tearing away from that, as you see and learn the red flags of these people. And you can stop smashing your head against a wall over and over again by choosing differently and keeping the learning going, and will all help in recovery, no matter how hard it can be to let go of certain people that you might love, but that have treated you so harshly and rejected you over and over again. To begin to keep separating, and when it's a profound pain, when they put you in such a profound pain, to move on in a way by keeping into you and the things that you like to do, instead of going over to his house or her house one more time, or calling her, or getting on the computer one more time and seeing what they're doing, or whatever it is, to go home instead. Make your environment beautiful. Surround yourself with, if you're on your own, surround yourself with beautiful things that you love, and connect and gather things around you that you love, that can keep you occupied, more satisfied, as we begin to accept ourselves, and that it is okay to be with ourselves, and that it is okay to love things that we like, instead of depending on this toxic person or whatever, to be everything for them instead, and forget ourselves. So I guess that's all I'm going to put out there today. And thank you. Peace.